Don't feed the troll. German chancellor responds to Elon Musk comments. World's richest man has been voicing support for Germany's far-right AfD party while insulting its current leaders when the German chancellor, Olaf Scholz, was asked in an interview about the barrage of insults being directed at him and other German leaders by Elon Musk, the world's richest man. His reply was, "Don't feed the troll." Speaking to the German weekly Stern, Scholz described the criticisms as nothing new. "You have to stay cool," he said in the interview. "As Social Democrats, we have long been used to the fact that there are rich media entrepreneurs who do not appreciate social democratic politics and do not hide their opinions." He said he would make no efforts to engage with Musk, who has endorsed the far-right Alternative for Deutschland AfD in next month's federal elections and will host a live discussion on his social media platform X with its candidate for chancellor, Alice Weidel. "I don't believe in courting Mr. Musk's favor. I'm happy to leave that to others," he said. The rule is, don't feed the troll. It was the chancellor's most direct response to Musk, coming days after he urged voters not to let the owners of social media channels decide the outcome of the general election in a New Year's Eve address that did not mention Musk by name nor his platform X. Since taking the reins of X, Musk has increasingly used the social media platform's global reach to push his own political views. After spending $250 million to help secure Donald Trump's return to the White House, Musk has used his influence to back far-right and anti-establishment parties across the continent, while attacking some of its most prominent center-left leaders. In November, after the collapse of Scholz's center-left coalition, Musk called the chancellor a fool on X, reiterating the criticism after 5 people were killed and more than 200 injured in a Christmas market attack allegedly carried out by a Saudi-born assailant with far-right sympathies that AS 2024 drew to a close. Musk again took aim at Scholz, offering his view on the outcome of Germany's election, to be held on February 23rd. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, or whatever his name is, will lose. In recent days, Musk has waded into UK politics, calling on King Charles to step in and dissolve Parliament. As he criticized the government over child grooming cases, Scholz brushed off the comments aimed at him, pointing instead to Musk's endorsement of the AfD. "What I find much more worrying than such insults is that Musk is supporting a party like the AfD, which is in parts right-wing extremist, which preaches rapprochement with Putin's Russia and wants to weaken transatlantic relations," said Scholz. That Musk's foray into the politics of Europe's top economy has sparked outrage in Germany and accusations of interference. His support for the AfD last month, he wrote on social media that only the AfD can save Germany, comes months after the party was expelled from a pan-European parliamentary group of populist far-right parties after a string of controversies, including a comment by a senior AfD figure that the Nazi SS were not all criminals. Elements of the party have been classed as right-wing extremists by Germany's domestic intelligence services. Musk later doubled down on his support for the AfD. In a guest editorial in the broadsheet Welt am Sonntag, Musk defended the party and claimed it was the last spark of hope for Germany. The AfD is polling second before the general election, and a strong showing for the party could complicate coalition building, as mainstream parties have ruled out collaborating with the AfD at state or federal level. Scholz also used his interview to hit back at Musk's description last month of the federal president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, as an anti-democratic tyrant. The German president is not an anti-democratic tyrant. In Germany is a strong and stable democracy. "Never mind what Mr. Musk says," said Scholz. "In Germany, the will of the citizens prevails, not the erratic comments of a billionaire from the USA." In addition to his involvement in German and UK politics, Musk has also held talks with Hungary's Viktor Orbán, whose government has been under an EU sanctions procedure since 2018 for posing a systemic threat to democracy and the rule of law. Musk has also criticized the judges who annulled Romania's presidential election over suspicions of Russian interference and enthusiastically supported Italy's far-right Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. "We have our country back." Convicted January 6 rioters anticipate Trump pardons the president-elect has vowed to hand out pardons to nonviolent offenders convicted for the assault on the U.S. Capitol. Brandon Fellows, who broke into the U.S. Capitol on January 6 and smoked marijuana in a senator's office, stood outside the Washington, D.C. jail where he spent part of his 3-year sentence behind bars, thinking about how Donald Trump might soon help him get his life back on track. Having served his prison sentence after being found guilty on a slew of federal charges, the 30-year-old is today on probation under terms that have prevented him from leaving the capital region to start a chimney maintenance business in New Jersey. But with Trump returning to the White House on January 20th, Fellows expects his circumstances to change dramatically. "I'm just going to wait till after the election. Make sure I don't have to partake in a real insurrection if Trump loses, and then I'll decide what I'm doing after," he said about his thinking before November's presidential election. Now that Trump has won, Fellows is counting on the president-elect to pardon him and other January 6 defendants. "With Trump in office, I'm starting to plan and rebuild my life again," Fellows said that as soon as he is back in power. Trump has vowed he will pardon people prosecuted over the assault on the U.S. Capitol that took place 4 years ago on Monday. Carried out by a mob of Trump's supporters after he had addressed them outside the White House, the attack brought political violence into the halls of Congress and has been linked to 9 deaths among police and rioters. "We're going to look at each individual case, and we're going to do it very quickly, and it's going to start in the first hour that I get into office," Trump told Time magazine in an interview after winning re-election. "A vast majority should not be in jail, and they've suffered gravely." The pardons would mark the end of a 4-year campaign by Joe Biden and his Attorney General, Merrick Garland, to hold to account the thousands of rioters who overran police lines and sent lawmakers fleeing the Capitol on the day they convened in 2021 to certify the Democrats' election victory. The Justice Department has charged more than 1,500 people with offenses related to the attack in the years since, nearly 600 of whom have faced felony charges of assaulting or impeding law enforcement. But Trump's jailed followers are counting the days until they receive the absolution Trump has promised. For more than 2 years, relatives of those charged in the attack and supporters of the former president have gathered on a sidewalk outside Washington, D.C.'s jail for a nightly vigil called Freedom Corner, where January 6th is viewed not as an attack on democracy, but a catalyst for unfair government repression. Trump is now expected to turn the latter narrative into policy as soon as he gets into office. Last Thursday, a handful of activists, watched by no fewer than a half-dozen police cruisers, arrived for the vigil on a frigid night and listened over a portable sound system as January 6th defendants inside the jail and elsewhere called in to express their confidence that Trump would soon end their saga. "I'm extremely excited because of the fact of how unjust this court system has been," Jonathan Pollock, a Florida man detained at the jail on charges related to attacking police officers at the Capitol with one of their own riot shields, said in a phone call to the 7 or so people outside. "It'll be so nice to actually go be able to find justice and get out of here. We're excited for the pardon, but we're excited that we have our country back, because we love our country, and we love all the people in it," added Gregory Purdy from New York, who was convicted last year of a slew of charges related to attacking police during January 6th riot. James Grant, a North Carolina man who was found guilty of assaulting officers with a metal bike rack barricade, said the fallout from his conviction was keeping him from pursuing his career and warned of worse consequences for others if the president-elect does not keep his promise. "I need a pardon to return to law school," said Grant, who has been released from prison. "If people are not pardoned, I hate to say it, but there will be suicides. These people are facing so much. What happens these next 20 days is going to change the fate of the world, and in these gentlemen's lives, this is the biggest few weeks of their lives." For all the enthusiasm among Trump supporters, a December poll from Monmouth University found that 61% of respondents would disapprove of Trump pardoning people convicted over the Capitol attack. The president-elect has also said he might pass over those who acted violently, telling Time, "I'm going to do case by case, and if they were nonviolent, I'm going to look if there's some that really were out of control." Jamie Raskin, a Democratic representative who served on the bipartisan commission that investigated the Capitol attack and concluded that Trump should be charged for his involvement, warned that the incoming president would be liable if anyone he pardons returns to violence. If this is going to happen, it would be an extraordinary event in the history of the Republic to have a president pardon more than 1,000 criminal convicts who were in jail for having engaged in a violent insurrection incited by that very president, Raskin said in a press briefing organized by State Democracy Defenders Action, a group dedicated to checking Trump's autocratic tendencies. People should demand a very specific accounting of how there is contrition and repentance on the part of each of the people being pardoned. And there should also be an affirmative statement that they pose no further threat to the public safety, because anything that happens by these people, whether it's in a political context or some other context, will essentially be laid at the doorstep of soon-to-be President Donald Trump. Standing outside the jail, fellows who wore a red mega cap and a blue jacket reading, "I see immigration," that he hopes will encourage undocumented immigrants who see it to leave the country, expressed confidence that he met Trump's criteria for pardoning. "I feel pretty safe, given that I'm in the nonviolent category," he said. Should Trump pass him up, Fellows expects a judge to eventually give him a more lenient sentence that will end his probation. Last year, the conservative-dominated Supreme Court handed down a decision in Fisher v. United States, which narrowed one of the statutes federal prosecutors have used against hundreds of rioters and opened the door for them to receive lesser sentences. Nicole Reffitt, an organizer of Freedom Corner, whose husband, Guy Reffitt, was the first rioter convicted over the attack, hopes Trump structures his pardons in a way that allows higher courts to issue more decisions like Fisher. "That I'd never want this to happen to other people again," Reffitt said.